Yes, folks, hello and welcome to the second episode of the Having a Brew YouTube series from the Ministry of Dice. That's right, that's the second episode. If you've not been and seen the first episode, that went out last week, please do go check that out. In that episode, I discuss brewing up my European Championship Iceman team, and that is what having a brew is all about. It's an opportunity for us over at the Ministry of Dice to talk about something a little different, to talk about brewing up teams or discuss cards or put some word out there around our thoughts and feelings on the meta, and perhaps occasionally a little something else, a little something different too. So we're piloting this stuff. We'd love to know what your thoughts and feelings are. So please do give this second episode a try. Don't be that guy who watches 6 minutes and leaves. I know, I can see on the analytics. I know you're out there. Be that guy who watches all the way to the end. You know you want to. I think you will definitely want to, because in this episode now, what I'd like to talk about, well, Trouble in Waterdeep has been released in North America. We've had the spoilers for quite a period of time, and the new hotness is the Godcatcher card. And everybody, the gold rush is on. The guys who've had the preview products have been playing around with it, writing articles about the teams they're building. The gold rush is on to be the person who can find that nasty godcatchery team that's going to do that 20-point hit in turn 3 or 4. The person who's searching for the garbage combo to make that the new meta. All swinging, all dancing, horrible, thumpy beat stick. I'm not going to do that. Regular listeners and watchers will know that's not me, that's not my style. What I want to talk about today is some ideas as to how to counter the Godcatcher. Since we first ever saw that preview at the fan appreciation event late last year, it's been rattling around in my head as to how we're going to deal with this card, because inevitably, down your local gaming stores and in competitive events, should we get them this year, that thing is going to be stomping around all over the place, being all statuey and stony and horrible. So here I'm going to share some of the cards that let to my mind, or broadly some card kind of theme ideas that you might want to experiment with to deal with that Godcatcher if it becomes a pest in your meta. Now, bit of small print. None of this is tested right now. We don't even have the product in Europe. There is one Trouble in Waterdeep campaign box that I know of in the UK, because it was awarded at our Gaming versus Cancer charity event. So it's all untested. These are just brewing ideas right now. And if there's any North American watchers who want to give some of these ideas a try, or have indeed already tried some of these cards out to counter the Godcatcher, please do get in touch and let me know how it went. So let's get started, shall we? I suppose the first thing we need to do is take a look at the Godcatcher itself. Here it is. So this is the specific card in question, the famous walking statue. It's a 3-cost bolt. It's a trap card, and that's important. We'll come back to that in a minute. The trigger is when you, meaning the owner of the Godcatcher, uses an action die, and its effect is that it fields a 10 attack and 10 defense, the Godcatcher token. It has, when the Godcatcher attacks, target character die must block this turn if able. So not only does it give you cheap and fast access to a 10/10 character, but that character comes with a force block built into its game text. That is just horrifying, and makes it very clear why the power play beat stick crowd are feeling very excited about that bad boy. Particularly, I can see it's going to be very board clear strategies and overcrush strategies are going to be a big part of the story with this guy, where they're going to look to clear down your board to storm him over for 10, or to give him overcrush somehow and get that statue overcrushing against your weenies, taking advantage of that built-in force blocker. So I think we can all see and understand why that is such a horrifying prospect to be on the other side of the table of. And a 3 cost to get it bought up, and then using action dice is not difficult. Bear in mind also that the general consensus right now is that the use of a Godcatcher die is a trigger for a Godcatcher die. So if you or your opponent buy 2, you can use your second one to trigger off the first one and just keep chaining Godcatcher tokens out, which is even more frightening. So now that we've set the scene, and anyone who was unfamiliar with the Godcatcher card and why I felt like I needed to have a bit of a chat about ways to counter it, now you are familiar with it. So let's talk about some ideas around countering. So the first thing that sprung to mind, and I think this has been talked about on the kind of chat rooms and the social medias, is the pushback globals, traditionally referred to as the distraction globals, based on the very early AVX version. Here's the two in the current modern meta. You've got the static field. This is the DC Justice one, but there's also one in the Warhammer 40k campaign box, and then we've got the Kate Bishop here with the pushback global from the Mighty Thor set, but then also the promo version of Kate Bishop that was in the organized play kits earlier this year includes the global. So these are pretty straightforward. The thing that people are most concerned about, I think, is the fast and furious aggro use of the Godcatcher die to get those 10-10 out really early and in your face before you've kind of caught your breath and got some things going for yourself. And so Static Field and Kate Bishop might be attractive counters because all you need to do is keep yourself a mask. I say all you need to do is keep yourself a mask. There's a few risks with this. The first is that if you're saving masks for your opponent's turn, God forbid you need to save one, but you may need to save two if they're chaining them. It means that spending power you're not using on your own turn to get on with your own win conditions, to get on with your own stuff. So it's still restrictive. And a little bit prohibitive for you if the god catcher is coming over in your face, and you're just pushing it back. The other consideration with this as a method of countering the god catcher is that while it will clearly work, it will push them back. The opponent still gets to keep that 10-10 god catcher token. So all you've done is delay it. You've not dealt with it really. You've just kind of you put a plaster over the wound, as it were. So clearly cheap, clearly efficient ways of using it. Something else that occurred to me is that these are clearly, these appear on teams in the meta anyway, because it's not just the god catcher you can use these globals to take care of. It's many other things that may be attacking, getting in your face that you want to take care of too. The other thing to bear in mind is that globals targeting characters can be reasonably easily countered with 4-cost characters like Wonder Woman and Madam Mask. So Godcatcher users may have prepared for this and have a counter of their own to control your control. However, the first thing that immediately springs to mind, I'm sure for many of you, is right, well, I use these globals already to push back big attackers. I'm going to carry on using them for the Godcatcher. There are some other ideas that I was toying around with, and these ideas they focus on the fact that they are tokens that are being played here. So here is the token from the rules, the keyword rules on the WizKids website. It says tokens bracket characters. Some cards will have the ability to generate character tokens. These tokens may be represented by whatever you would like, and for the game purposes are considered to be level 1 character dice with a purchase cost of 0. Their attack and defense values will be given by the card generating them, and they can only exist in the field zone. As soon as they leave the field zone, they no longer exist. They may not be spun up, spun down, or re-rolled. They do not have an energy type. So competitive players who are taking a look at the Godcatcher have, in the first instance, as a counter to the Godcatcher, honed in on that line in there that says, as soon as they leave the field zone, they no longer exist. And the current thinking is, although it's not been ruled on specifically, but the current thinking is, it's a bit of rules lawyering, but the current thinking is that if you were to, for example, using a card like Gazer, intimidate out the token, it's gone. That's it. The token's gone. So whereas with a character die that's been purchased and fielded in the traditional sense, when that gets intimidated, it returns at the end of the go. In the instance of a token, it wouldn't. You have effectively killed it. Intimidate effectively kills tokens because it says when they leave the field zone, they do not return. So Gaze is a great example. I mean, there's many Intimidate cards that you might want to consider using, but I think this is the cream of the crop. A relatively, comparably, there isn't anybody as cheap and as efficient as this for intimidating stuff out. Gaze is a 2-cost shield. It's got Intimidate. The experience token restriction isn't an issue when dealing with god catchers. It's got low defense numbers. It's cheap and cheerful to get out, and then KO to reuse. So you've got Gazer, or you've got things like Deadly. Again, when it gets KO'd, it's not going to the prep area. It's going to be removed altogether. If it's removed from the field, it's gone. So you could use cheap deadly blockers like Grell here. Again, I'm just focusing on some of the new ones that have come in Tomb of Annihilation. That you can buy and get out as quickly and efficiently as your opponent can buy and get out the god catcher, which is concerning because it may all boil down to who wins the roll off and gets the first go. But still, that line in the rules text that says when it leaves the field zone, it's gone. You can take advantage of these. Or if you want to just kind of enhance all your other strategies, you've got intimidating cards that are popular, like Yellow Lantern Ring, where rather than using an Intimidator, you can give Intimidate to other characters that you may plan on buying and using. So these are all options to take care of that. I think there is going to be some explanation of that, or certainly putting it into the WizKids rule forum to get some clarity as to whether that truly is the case. But like I say, the best rules lawyering interpretation of that is that these will remove it. To take that a little bit further, there's an element in that description that clearly states that they are considered level 1 characters. So cards like Avalanche here that KOs all level 1 character dice could be a good way of dealing with the God Catcher. Maybe with a Malekith or the new Nihilor Global, you can get your Avalanche out in the field, and then in your opponent's main step or in your own main step in the global window, KO him and clear those God Catchers out before it even comes to the combat phase. So if they're going to attack you and get up in your face, kill them off before it gets to that point. And again, on the assumption that when they leave the field zone, they don't come back, they're gone. Or equally, if you want to do some attacking and you want their God Catchers out the way, KO Avalanche and get them cleared down. Bit more expensive though here. We're looking at a 4 cost, so you might want to consider the speed and efficiency at which you can get that out. But I think it's a little bit of a different angle to look at that kind of level 1 piece. And another example of exploring that level 1 area is Smash, basic action card. It's a 3-cost basic action. It just simply says KO target level 1 character die. You've got the burst face there, but in this instance, we're looking to KO a level 1 character die. But it's also got the added advantage of the global, which says pay a fist, target blocked character die deals no combat damage this turn, which is a kind of second bit of value against the God Catcher, because if people are going to capitalize on that force block gain text that the token's been awarded by the action, by the trap, then you could potentially use that global. If they're going to capitalize on that force block element of the attack and give it overcrush, and to using as a combo with that, then the Smash Global will help you out. So not only can you use Smash to kill God Catchers off and get rid of them forever, or at least until the trap goes off again, you can also use the Global to help you out if you've got overcrushing God Catchers coming down the field at you. Something else that occurred to me, this is one that we've toyed around with a little bit down at my FLGS, is the Poison Dart Trap. Again, much more in the kind of cost area you might want to be looking at, because it's a 2. So you can pick it up in your first turn and get it round ASAP. It's a trap, so using a trap to counter a trap kind of feels sort of nice. Although thematically, it kind of doesn't add up in my head, because what we're basically talking about here is using a small poison dart to take out of action a giant statue made of concrete. But this is a trap. The trigger is when your opponent attacks you, and the effect there is to KO any attacking level 1 character dice. So this is quite nice because you can just sit it in the field, get the trap ready, and then when that God Catcher comes across, it will be instantly KO'd, so you don't have to worry about it doing any damage. You don't have to worry about the force block effect, because the token will be gone. And because tokens, when removed from the field, don't come back, they've got to cycle around the action to play it again. So some interesting ideas there, and some things to think about in terms of a bit of rules lawyery, jiggery pokery with how we take care of it. I think the level 1 stuff is interesting, but these have been around for a while and haven't been used very heavily. So they have only come to my attention, or I've paid more attention to them, in light of the God Catcher becoming a potential meta beast. Whereas the Intimidates and the Deadlies have much more generic, wider value, because they will help you out with God Catcher teams, but will also help you out with other teams as well. So the level 1 thing is nice and it's okay, but you'd be putting it on your team probably just to deal with the God Catcher. So that's a little something to be thinking about and considering. All right, let's have a look at some other ideas that I've been toying around with. Dealing with the tokens is all good and well, but you need to deal with the action dice too. So if you're using your removal to get rid of those tokens, it doesn't go to the prep area, it doesn't go to the use pile if you KO or intimidate it. It'll be gone. The way that your opponent will get their God Catchers back is by reusing the trap. So let's target those trap dice, which are considered action dice. The best action hate in the game right now. Scarlet Witch, careful what you wish for. She forces that reroll, or if they've rolled energy, prevents a reroll. And so stands a good chance of locking out action dice. She's pretty strong. She's about the best thing you can pull out your arse to take care of an action die like that. So removing the tokens and getting them out your face is one thing, but taking care of the action die is another. And Scarlet Witch is clearly going to be an option. And again, as I was saying before, what's particularly nice about Scarlet Witch is she's useful in so many other situations. Boom Boom teams, Atlantis, fish slap teams where they rely very heavily on action dice for their combos and their win conditions. She'll help you out there as well as helping you out with the God Catcher. Another card in the kind of prevention space is the Blob here, Appetite for Destruction. So it's the rare from the X-Men First Class set. He says, when fielded, choose an opposing card, cancelling all previous choices. Your opponent may not purchase or field that card's dice until Blob leaves the field zone. Slightly more expensive than I like. The 4 cost is something to be considered about whether it's efficient enough. But some time ago, a very bright, witty, erudite hero of a Dice Masters player thought to explore Blob, Appetite for Destruction, and the impact that he had on action dice in addition to characters. And somebody asked about, do action dice field when they're used? Can he target continuous action dice, etc., etc.? And WizKid said yes. Blob can target action cards in addition to character cards. Only continuous actions and gear actions are fielded. Thus, if Blob targets an action card, your opponent cannot purchase that die and cannot use the die if it is a continuous or gear action die. Blob would not prevent the use of non-continuous or non-gear die, however. Well, that's fine, folks, because in the keyword rules on the webpage, traps are a special kind of continuous action die. So Blob's useful if you want to prevent your opponent from buying a God Catcher die, but you may have dismissed it thinking, well, it'll stop them from buying it. If they've already bought one, I'm in trouble. But no, he actually stops them from fielding it also. So he's a nice solid option. And with the kind of defense stats that Blob's carrying around with him, he's a good one to drop in the field and camp out and stop your opponent from using their God Catcher. So take care of the tokens is one thing, but you might want to take care of the action dice too. All right, a couple of other thoughts. Blocking power, blocking these. And I've been looking at characters that can block that don't take damage or reduce damage in order to stand up to big beat sticks such as the God Catcher, particularly big beat sticks that have the potential to be overcrushed on. Now they're not ideal because you've got that kind of all the stuff around the force block element. However, cards like Poison Ivy Red that doesn't take damage when she is taking damage from a non-villain character die, or Mastermind who doesn't take any damage during combat, or the Wolfguard Terminator that reduces damage down to 1 from each source when it's delivered, are handy if you're finding that your opponent is pulling a bit of overcrush shenanigans out on you. And so you might want to get these guys out in the field because overcrushing is only takes effect if the blocking die is KO'd. So a bit of blocking power there, maybe with cards like that. Another example that's in set, in the Tomb of Annihilation set is Jopper Zen here. He's a 3-cost shield, so he's in that kind of nice, comfortable early purchase margin, and he prevents all damage to Jopper while he's blocking. So if you get him in the mix, he can help out dealing with any overcrushers. So in addition to the card that they force blocked with, you can then drop, say, Jopper or Poison Ivy in the mix in order to prevent the overcrush damage from going through because they've not KO'd all the dice. Or maybe they have. I'd have to check into that one. Maybe one of you guys know. Pop it in the comments below if I'm wrong on that. There's every reason to think I am. They can force a target character to block, but they can't stop you from blocking with additional characters, is what I'm getting at. Anyway, so there you go. So there's Jopper. We've also got here's something a little bit different. This is a card that I don't see around very often, but I was kind of looking at Absorbing Man because I was looking at 3 costs. Again, that comfortable margin of early purchase. Carl Crusher Creel. And he says, when Absorbing Man attacks or blocks, he may copy the attack and or defense value of the character die Absorbing Man is blocking or blocked by. So get him bought up, nice and cheap for 3, get him out in the field, and when that God Catcher comes over over the way to smash your face. You put Absorbing Man in front of it and just go for a mutually assured destruction approach. Of course, you're putting it over to Lady Luck because you're operating on the hope that you then re-roll Absorbing Man back in your turn, ready for any more God Catchers that are coming down the pipeline. But I just thought it was interesting, another little interesting twist. And like the others, I'm looking for generically useful. He'll be handy in a number of situations, although perhaps less so than, say, Poison Ivy, Jopper, Mastermind, etc., etc. But I was just kind of toying around with that idea of blocking power in my head. Here's something that I just happened across. I don't know. I'd love to hear from folks if you, and you know the usual ways to get in touch with me, if you've had a play around with this and used it. But Dual Defense, which is a basic action from the X-Men Forever campaign box, it's a 2-cost basic action, and it says choose 2 of your character dice. If either of those character dice block, the other must block as well. These character dice cannot be KO'd while blocking. These effects last until the beginning of your next turn, and then it has a little added value from the burst there that says, also, these character dice cannot be targeted until the beginning of your next turn. So I just thought, oh, that's an interesting one. An action dice that you can buy up. So if you didn't want to put anything in your main card, your 8-card pool, or characters that are focused on dealing with a God Catcher, but you've got a slot open up in your basic action slots and looking for something to use. Dual Defense might be a way to go. So protect your win condition from getting force blocked by the God Catcher. If your opponent's using it as a means of removal to interfere with your stuff, or that integral control card that you want to keep hold of to utilize, then that might be a nice way of protecting your cards from the must block element. Because we'll make it block, that's fine, but you can't KO it anyway. So something to think about there. Just a little idea that occurred to me. So there we are, ladies and gents. Just a few ideas that I've been rattling around in my head. I'm sure there's many, many more besides what I put out there. That's certainly not an exhaustive list of things to experiment with and toy around with when facing the God Catcher and seeking to counter it and put it in its place. So pop a note in the comments below, or find me on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, whatever. Let me know if there's something that's caught your eye that you think might be in the same sort of ballpark, around removal, around action hate, or around blocking power that's going to put us all in a strong position to deal with this God Catcher and preventing it from becoming the meta beast that I fear it may do. Also, while you're popping a comment in, don't forget to like and subscribe the video. It really helps us out, mostly in terms of making Andy feel better. So if you want to make one of those 2 handsome chaps that are looking down the lens of the screen happy, then please do click that thumbs up button. And again, like I say, we're piloting, just to remind you from the beginning of the video, we're piloting this Having a Brew series to see if it's something to expand the style and type and tone of content that we're putting out on the YouTube channel. So please do give us some feedback. Let us know. Hit the like button to show me that this is the sort of stuff you want to carry on constructing. Pop a comment in to let me know if there's anything you want me to add, or a particular area of exploration around this idea of brewing and talking about the meta in a video context in addition to the podcast. Then you've got to let me know. If you don't put the hand up, I won't ask you the question. If you don't make the comment, I can't hear it being said. That was a really superficial attempt at being profound. Epic fail to end the video. Okay, bye-bye now.